Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel. I'm Mike Catalana. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It is after day number 2. It's a late night, long day. You guys have been going through it too. I know you've been watching. Everybody watches the draft, right? Want to know what's going on. So let's talk a little bit about what the Bills did in day 2, where they are right now, and going ahead into day number 3. I'll start with the positive, right? I love the pick of O'Cyrus Torrence. I think he's the kind of guy they needed. They need to invest in the offensive line, right? And they've done it before in round 2 with Cody Ford. It was a failure. Doesn't mean you don't go back to that well again. I think this is a different kind of player. I like his size. I like his makeup. I like the things I've heard about him. He's big. He's powerful. He's good in space. He's a guard. That's where he should be playing. They didn't say, Bean wouldn't say, and they shouldn't just on the draft that, he's there to be a starter, but I think he's going to compete for that spot. He moves people. It's what he does. You may have read that he didn't give up a sack in college. It's a great stat. He really only played 1 year after he transferred. He ended up going, obviously, to Florida, where they got their number 1 pick last year, and he didn't give up a sack, which is great because you're playing in the SEC. He's a big-bodied guy. This dude was 400 pounds in the 8th grade. Not kidding you. Fortunately for him, he got taller, got in better shape. He's a great athlete, and he ends up in the National Football League. Loved hearing about him there with his family. All that stuff is positive. I think he's the kind of guy they invest in. Look, they have not done enough of this on the offensive line. That's why they're in the spot they're in. In the front, we know how bad it was. Everybody always thinks about the edges, and we know we have problems, certainly at the right tackle spot for the Bills. I don't think he's been good enough, right? Spencer Brown needs to be better. Deion struggled in the second half of the year, but I think Deion will be fine coming back healthy for this year. But in the interior and the inside, it was a problem. Roger Saffold, Pro Bowl. I saw somebody doing a review of the 2022 Bills and said, you got to bring back Roger Saffold because he made the Pro Bowl. 1, no one cares about the Pro Bowl, and 2, you didn't watch the Bills play. So you got to get bigger, stronger, tougher, younger. And I think this kid has a chance to be that. He's got a lot of things that you would want in an offensive lineman. And the first one is speed. Is size, because we're talking about a guy 330 pounds. I looked on the Bills roster. The only guy bigger than him weight-wise is Jordan Phillips. He's basically Deion's size. 6'5". Deion is listed at 320. He's at 330. So look, that's not going to say plug and play guy because we don't know. He's going to play. He'll be in the mix, right? He has a chance to earn that starting spot. So let's see what ends up happening with O'Cyrus Torrence. But I like that pick. There were people that had him mocked in the first round. I know we talk about that a lot, but we're not talking about any sort of a reach here. I think they got great value, position need, and a guy who looks like he can play, that played at top-end competition. Now, I'd already talked about Dalton Kincaid. I am liking the guy. I was not expecting that pick. And I said, and there's a video right here on the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel where I said I didn't do a lot of research on the tight ends. I didn't think they'd go in that direction, but I like a lot of what he brings. So let's start there. Bean gave up resources, moved up. But if the player is who they hope he is, you're not going to worry about that at the moment. You're going to say you got your guy because Dallas would have taken him. And then you get Torrence here in the second round, and I'm happy. Again, we'll see how it plays out, but I'm happy with the idea of what they were doing, the place that they got him. I think all that was good. I don't like the Dorian Williams pick. Seems like a heck of a kid. And he's one of those guys, right? Special teams ace, tough tackler. He's got a lot of things going for him. I have not found a guy yet, or a woman, who did research on this draft who has talked about him being a starting level player. They're all saying can compete for starting reps. That's his upside. Doesn't mean he can't do it, but I see him. They drafted Terrell Bernard in almost the same spot last year. He's on the outside. They said already on the outside. I have one thing in the back of my mind. I'll get to it in a second. I just look at him as a special teams backup player, and you're drafting him in the 3rd round. And this is not an extra pick here. You need to find guys who are going to compete to be starters. And I don't know. Maybe they have that much faith in Bernard and he's going to start, and then this young man will take more of the role of special teams and He'll be the backup to Matt Milano on the other side. And the one thing, maybe there's another plan here for him, right? I'm reaching here. Maybe there's a plan that he can play big nickel. He can play safety. I don't know. I mean, he's big enough, but he's not a giant. He's quick, but he's not fast. He is a good tackler. That's something. A lot of guys come into the league, they get by on their physical ability, but they're not tacklers. This kid is a tackler. But it's the third pick, third round. And sometimes you say that. I saw some of the guys that went in the time right before them. Josh Downs, if you wanted to go for a slot guy, maybe they're obviously going in a different direction there. I love Tank Dell, and he went in the third round. Trenton Simpson. I mean, compare the two players. Man, I have people killing me on Trenton Simpson that I liked him. He's an explosive player. He is a guy that would compete and have a very legitimate shot to start year one in that middle linebacker position. And people are giving me tackle rate stats on him. I told you, those numbers are inflated that way. They changed the way they wanted him to play the last year at Clemson. That guy is a player, and he went to Baltimore. What the heck do they know about linebackers, right? And Jahir Brown from Penn State, the safety went. Again, depending on what they're looking at, there were players. The guy who went 3 picks after the pick of Williams is Michael Wilson, the wide receiver out of Stanford. I told you, I love him. I like his size. I like the way he gets off the ball. I think he's one of those guys. I think he's one of those guys that could be on the roster, play teams, get some snaps. And if Gabe Davis walks, he could be that kind of guy. I'm not kidding. I think this guy is that good. And I think he has that ability. He's had some injury issues, but you could have brought him in. He went 94th. He ended up going to I think they're the Arizona Cardinals. So he went a couple of picks afterward. And there's a lot of things I'll give Brandon Beane the benefit of the doubt on. But this one, in the third round last year, you drafted a linebacker that didn't get on the field much at all on defense. Right now, you're already saying this guy is a outside linebacker. That's where they're going to start him. They think of him as a special teams guy. And again, they all have to earn their way in the lineup. There's nothing that I see about him right now that screams this kid is going to step in someday and be a starter. Maybe Bernard will be that guy. That would be a huge lift for this team. Maybe that's what they think. But, so far you got a tight end. You had a tight end, but I've already explained I like the idea of it, and check the other video out on that. You got an offensive lineman. Love it. You lost me on this pick. I can be convinced. I'll be at training camp every day. We'll see the guy at practice. I can be convinced that he is a guy worthy of the third pick. They love him at Tulane. I think he's that kind of guy, right? There's a lot of guys like that in the NFL. Third round. And now look at what they have left. 137 and 205. It's the price you pay for giving up other picks. They came into this with 6, and now they're down to 5. They gave up that pick. You got 137 and 205. Do you dip into next year? Maybe, to pick up a pick or two. I said he's going to be doing this for the undrafted free agents. You're going to need to bring some guys in. You're going to be looking for veterans too that are going to be out there. The whole thing's not a great use of resources. Again, if you get starters, you get players who are going to contribute right away. Certainly the first 2 picks look like they can be those guys. And then with only a couple more, take your chances. And don't give me this BS that I'll hear people say, how many guys would make the roster? You got a roster of 70 players, or a little more than 70 by the time you get done with the 53 and then the whole practice squad. So relax. If you got a player, he can stay on your team, at least be on the practice squad. But they're only likely going to be bringing in 5 draft picks unless they trade out of 137 and Beane tries to get a couple of other picks, depending on what he likes out there. Not sure where he's going to go. I mean, we're 3 picks in. They didn't take a wide receiver. Okay. We're 3 picks in. They didn't take anybody at safety, which you got 2 30-plus-year-olds. At some point, you got to pull the trigger on that. They haven't done that yet. At least they're not the San Francisco 49ers who took a kicker in the 3rd round. I know they had some extra picks, but that seems like a waste to me. So let me know what you think. You might think I'm wrong. You might think you see something in Dorian Williams that you think he's going to be a guy who steps in and eventually becomes a starter. And again, I'd love to replay this and tell you how dumb I was at that time, but at the moment, I don't see it. I like the idea of the first pick. I love the fit with the second pick, and I'm not in at all on the third pick. So let's see what Brandon Beane can do as the draft continues. And remember, we're going to have coverage the whole time on the Buffalo Plus channel here on YouTube. So for Jenna and Dan, I'm Mike. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next time here on Buffalo Plus.